Today I welcome Elston to the show, so thanks for accepting my invitation.
Hey Martin, great to be here and talking about solo entrepreneurship.
So Elston, if you should resume your path in 3 to 5 minutes, how you will do that? Taking notes.
So I started as a software engineer. I studied software engineering, computer science at university, but before that, I guess I was always fascinated about, web design and the web. So from a young age, 13 or 14, I was kind of like making websites, you know, toying around with HTML. But then, yeah, studied computer science, graduated, and got to a point where I found myself in a big bank working in tech, and I realized that this is just not for me. I looked at everyone around me, and I looked at how people saw life, and I was just really confused how people just accepted that this was like the next 30 years of their life, working in a big office, a big bank with so many people around me, and just working up to move into a seat right next to you, which is where the director kind of sat, but pretty much looked like he was the same person, maybe more stressed out. And at some point, yeah, I wanted to go back to the things I enjoyed doing, and I was just like building things online. And so I didn't. It wasn't until then where I realized that I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, as you call it. And I started my first project out of just out of university. And that was a social planning app. So that was an app that helped people plan within friends, when to meet for drinks or dinner or anything. And that problem came out of my experience back then, which was just finishing university, still want to connect with people, but now everyone is busy in their lives, and it was very difficult to make that happen. And so I launched that, made all the wrong mistakes in the book. I told everyone about it, and a lot of my friends were like, "Yes, can I help?" And so I had like 5 co-founders at some point. None of them, well, most of them are not doing much. Built in silence in some way, like for like 6 months, basically without shipping. And then launched it, and nobody basically downloaded it, which was like really surprising at that point in time. But that was a good experience, just building something from
I think
scratch,
I lost you.
getting it on the stores, trying to market it and fail, and working with other people. And then after that, one of my friends from that group, we basically built a software for law firms, and so that was not a VC backed company, but it was it had an investor. It was kind of bankrolling it, and it was a good experience. It was the first time I worked full time on it. Had a team of about 10, 12 kind of engineers. Built a cool product, but the business side didn't take off. And that was also because there wasn't enough marketing going on. And so after a year, I said, I want to, do other things. And at that point as well, maybe slightly before that, I basically created my first kind of solo app, which is like a running app on the Android Play Store, just to help people to run. I was also trying to run at that point, learning to run 5K, and all the other apps were just not great. And so I wanted to, build something simple. And that was the first time I built something simple myself. Added a payment option to it. I was making a little bit of money, but after I left the software for law firm company,
Yeah.
I decided to just go down a route of the indie hacker bootstrap kind of route, and I landed on TinyHost, which is what I founded and run today. And yeah, that long story cut short, we're now 150,000 monthly visitors. We get 30,000 new signups a month, and we're growing really well. And it was just kind of a solo journey, bootstrapped, no VC funding or any investors. And Yeah, I'm really interested in sharing that story and encouraging as many people as possible to do that and try that route as well.
Thank you for this introduction. That was beautiful and full of tiny detail I want to go back on,
Yeah.
and that's very nice. So you said something like at one point you were like working in uni, and you say you were always kind of passionate about building websites and like having projects. So did you, while you were in university, like started your own project or stuff, even it was like tiny things? Did you add your own thing already there?
At university, I didn't actually, but prior to university, so in like, high school, and yeah, early high school, I was very interested in that stuff. So yeah, like it was that was, when the web was just becoming its thing. This is like pre-Facebook, and it was just so cool that for me that you could, put something online and have a link that anyone in the world could kind of, visit. And so I was just really interested and fascinated by that stuff. So yeah, and once I kind of, learned HTML, CSS, I wasn't a great engineer back then. Um,
Yeah,
I
pretty new, I can guess. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
normal.
Exactly. And a few people, like family friends, came to me and said, I need a website for my business or here and there. So I used to do a little bit of freelancing work, which was fun, and creating very simple websites for people here and there. Yeah, and tried a few projects here and there. It was just like, yeah, teenage fun. It wasn't Nothing was like, a business. Never tried to monetize much of it really. Didn't know much about the business side of tech. Was just building stuff because it was cool to
Yeah.
have it online and have people, visit that.
I truly believe this is one of the core foundation of good entrepreneurs is they have tried a lot of things just for the fun of it or just to help family or friends and just like get few bucks of that. But
Yeah,
that give you a lot of context for later where you're gonna want to build a business on top of it because you have to start by things that are useful for yourself or for others. So I find like everyone I have interviewed in this podcast on the French one I had before, this is very deterministic for people getting early traction in their project when they want to build a business on because they had previous project where they could have fun and not like because building a business is boring sometimes. Like you have to do things that are not so
yeah,
funny. But
yeah,
if
of course.
before you had a funny path, then you are less have tendency, I will say, to try to just have fun because I see that often with entrepreneurs or developers. They want to have fun during the side project. In the same times, or the objective is also to make a business out of it, and this is conflicting. You know, you cannot have fun as much as I mean, you
Yeah.
can do it, but it's get harder.
No, and
So
I see it all the time, and people especially like do some hard work to get to like 1K MRR, and then they just go build another project, and because they missed the fun part of the early stage of building something. And
yeah,
the reality is, yeah, if you want to just build stuff, go and build stuff. But if you want to create a business, there's difference to that. Like there is a fun building part, but there are a lot of boring, just day-to-day things you have to do, and a lot of it is marketing, especially at an early age of your company, and that stuff isn't interesting to a lot of people, but it is the thing that's going to make the company succeed. And so
definitely. Yeah.
people seem to just shy away from that, and a lot of reasons I think people don't succeed is due to that, actually.
For sure, for sure. For me, this is very something deterministic. Like you can have the best technical product you want without any marketing. You will do nothing. Both are work in combination. If you have only marketing and you have nothing behind, then you will not last long. Maybe you will have some times to build things, but it's pretty complex as well. Both
Yeah,
have to work together. For my side, I was like this kind of person because. I find marketing like kind of, I don't know, I prefer to talk to machine than human, like many software engineer. So for a part of my life, I was building projects for normal people, and then marketing was extremely painful because you're not in anything in your marketing, you're talking technical.
yeah,
And as I'm a technical person, that is missing. So it's missing the fun part of it. I could have the few one. So then I switched to project for developers, and then I started to enjoy marketing because then I can do marketing by coding, by doing tutorial coding, by doing free plugin, free tools, and that has changed everything for me.
yeah,
Uh,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And more, I start to enjoy doing normal marketing without technical part because I had this first feet in the wheel, like that. So that's something also to consider. Like you have to find hacks or you can work or create your project that will be easier for you than any other place. Like for my
Yeah.
early, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's super important is to also just optimize for marketing strategies that you're good at. And so it doesn't need to be like cold calling and messaging people on LinkedIn
Oh yeah, I hate
and just
that.
it's what every developer just hates. But yeah, there's so many ways you can market these days. SEO is probably one of the most efficient, and you can programmatically do that depending on what you're building. Building
Yeah.
tools like side projects are really cool that complement your product. But yeah, it's not as as different to development than people think sometimes.
Yes, definitely. Do you do a programmatical SEO on Tiny Host?
We don't do programmatic SEO. We do SEO for specific tasks. So we basically have created some kind of structured landing pages for specific keywords, which are for
Okay.
specific tasks. But we don't do it in a way that it's just traditionally done, where you have hundreds of pages based on lists of things. But we do side projects and side tools. So like one of the biggest ones we have now is test HTML. So if you type that into Google, we come up like second, I think, and it's just like a
Oh
little tool
wow.
that allows you to test your HTML. But it's a really good complement to our product, which is a HTML host. And so
Yeah.
things like that, which is just like a complementary and useful tools to people, what needs to be done.
Okay, thanks for that. So, what you will consider your main marketing strategy for Tiny Host?
It's definitely SEO.
Okay.
That's the one that has really helped us, get to where we are right now. But we also have, YouTube, which is also helping us. But YouTube also does play in SEO. But it's been
Oh, for sure,
SEO
yeah.
that, yeah. And so I knew nothing about SEO before, I began. And now I've kind of figured out the main concept which are important to get us to where we need to be.
Yeah. How did you started like SEO? Like what was the way to kick in?
It was actually through a community. So I'm part of this London community, in Indie Hackers London community, which is like called Indie Beers. And there I met, someone else who was just creating SEO content, building a video editor at the time. It's now a huge company, V.io. And
Oh, yes.
I met the founder there, who's now a good friend, and basically, he just explained what was working for them, and that's creating these specific landing pages for specific tasks. Like it's like yourdomain.com/test HTML, and then on that page, you really create stuff that serves the search intent. But you look for specific queries that really help. So it could be queries that people are looking for that Google hasn't found a good reply to. And so
Hmm.
if you look at tools like Hrefs, which is expensive but
Yeah,
super
that's the
helpful.
best tool, huh?
Yeah, it's a shame about the prices. It's really
It's
expensive.
it's Apple of of SaaS.
Yeah,
Super expensive, but yeah,
even
this is the
worse
best.
sometimes. But if you are serious about SEO, that's a really useful tool.
Yeah.
And through that, you can just find the right keywords and you build the right content for that on your blog or landing pages. And then you got to wait, really, and that's the patience game that people seem to ignore. Is that it takes months, sometime, for that to kick in, because especially if you're a new domain, you haven't got like a good rating,
Yeah.
it can really take a while. But you, what you get in reward for waiting is just basically what seems like infinite traffic to your website. You just, every day you get new people that click on your link and come to you, and it's just this like if this tap you open and never stops, water never stops flowing out of, and so you just get hundreds and thousands and eventually tens of thousands of visitors every month
Yeah.
through your content.
One thing I really like with Ahref is the when you pay, you can put your concurrents in your analytics to know like how they are ranking, which keyword they are
Hmm.
ranking. Because at the beginning, I didn't know shit about which keyword I should target and everything. So then I looked to my concurrent and I saw like some very good ranking, like for pages I didn't know that was useful for and will help.
Yeah,
Like for example, a bug on Android, like it was a specific thing, so to debug it. And that was the only page on my concurrent. It was like super high ranking and it was the only one on internet. And I was like, this page is super simple. Like I just copy paste the content, rewrite it a
yeah,
bit, put my name on it, publish it. And like a week later, I was ranking like top two behind him. And I was like, oh, perfect. New traffic. Like I doubled my traffic just by that. And I was like, oh, this is insane. There's
yeah.
so many
Often it's
things you
just the
can do.
simple things that people seem to not ignore, and like you can't be trying to create a website for JavaScript developers. Like that keyword is ridiculously difficult to rank for, but yeah, very niche, like long tail keywords they call it, which is means like many
Yeah.
words, multi-word phrases. Um, you'd be surprised how well you can rank for some of those things.
Yeah, yeah. And at the beginning, in this kind of tools, you don't understand. Like you see, like there are few research for certain words. You're like, they will bring nothing. But in fact, over days and weeks, months, it's a lot of new people.
Yeah,
So the tiny numbers compound very
yeah,
well.
exactly. Yeah, Google is still very, very good at traffic for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good thing, and I have to go back on it. Lately, I had so many technical problems with my SaaS. Now it's fixed. I will came back finally to marketing, and enjoy this kind of tiny hacks you can find and write good content, to update your content. Often, something I find very funny to do, super easy. It's like you take on your concurrent or niche some article, they are outdated. You can read the content and you see this is outdated. You do the same and you update it and you
Hmm.
just rank better because it's like new content compared
Yeah.
to old content.
Yeah, and people don't realize that Google is constantly trying to, update the algorithm, test new content and different results, and because it wants to give the best results, and it knows that it's something that's been there for years is never, it's not necessarily going to be, a better option than a new article today. So just because, there's a result in the top, five doesn't mean that, when you create the right content for it, that you couldn't be in that top five because Google will test you out eventually, see if people are clicking on you, and then if they are, and Google thinks it's better than the current options, they'll just swap and replace them with you.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Do you use tools to force Google index your pages? Because I discovered that like a month ago. I was
Yeah,
very surprised it works.
there's a whole lot of indie tools now around that. No, we don't. Never did. I mean, it's quite straightforward if you just have Google Search Console to go in and submit a sitemap. As long as you structured your website in the right way, you have a sitemap. Google knows what it is. Google will periodically go and find that,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we haven't needed to. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. For me, I had a very good sitemap. Like I was like working on it because I did like many pages and there are still some pages that were not indexed. And then I tried the
Mm.
one from Josh, I think,
Okay.
which is on Twitter. And then I got like all many page, not all of them, but 70% indexed, where before it was like 30% indexed.
Mm.
So I was
I
like,
interesting. So
oh,
it
interesting.
showed on your console that a lot of pages weren't indexed.
Yeah, yeah. And I couldn't make them index. I don't know why. And
Yeah,
I tried this tool and now they index it. I'm like,
yeah.
and I got traffic from it. Like I
Right.
tripled the traffic of the. It was the second website I did with PSEO,
Yeah, yeah,
programmatic SEO, and like most of pages were not indexed, and now they're like most of them are indexed. Only few of them are not. I
yeah,
was like, okay, nice. Just like a one click button, I buy, and then in 3 days I got all of them indexed. Like I was like, okay, this is one part of SEO I still don't understand. I don't understand why this is working, how
yeah.
this is
Oh,
working,
that's
but that does
interesting.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, as far as our dashboards are, if most our pages are always kind of indexed in some way. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
I think a lot of them are not ranked highly as well. But but yeah, perhaps just resubmitting it to Google makes it
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, because the thing is just a cron job doing it every day or something like that.
Yeah,
So at one point, Google like is like, okay, I will index you.
yeah, yeah. You asked them so much. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I think we can go back to a bit of your past because we've diverged to the current thing. Um, you said your first project was a social planning app,
hmm
and did you had a plan to monetize this, or it was just like, okay, we do an app and we think later about making money?
I mean, it was always supposed to be like a startup for us, like the first time we wanted to create something as a business. And
Yeah,
so we definitely wanted to monetize it. We had some ideas, but it was definitely one of those like, let's build it, release it, see how people are using it, and then monetize it a bit later. There were a lot of ways we could have monetized it. But this was like probably the first project where, I built it as a startup and wanted to really turn it into a company that we could spend our day job basically in.
yeah. So this one was like that wasn't the one you got like funding. It was the next one, right?
Correct, yeah. This was unfunded, just us building it. We applied to YC and a few other accelerators for that as well. Didn't really get any good responses from there, but just built it ourselves.
Okay. What's the main lesson for you got from this first project?
There were many. I think the biggest one, which is very common knowledge now, but people still seem to like
They need to experience
ignore
it
it.
themselves.
Yeah, and I've realized the hard way. No matter how much you tell someone to do something, until they learn it themselves, they won't unlearn the lesson.
Yeah.
But it was just don't spend so long building something without releasing it to the public and people to try it. Like that was like probably the most painful one. After you spend 6 months plus trying to really build loads of features and growing it and scaling it, and then eventually no one uses it, and you realize that there's probably some things wrong with it. But then you're so burnt out from like developing.
Yeah, you give it all, and now you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
you don't have the energy to continue to build and iterate off it. Whereas with my latest project, like I was so fed up of that strategy, I said I'm going to spend like a month part time building it and building the first version of it and releasing it, and then I'm just going to market it, and then I'll add some features here and there as it grows. But it was a very basic product when we launched, and that was a way better strategy.
yeah, yeah. I, you just make me realize, I think I keep doing that while after finding a project market fit. Like currently, I have kind of argument coming over and over with my the guy I'm working with in freelance because he wants to do things like like a tunnel vision. Like it's like, okay, we need to do that. I will do it for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks I'll release. I'm like, no, no, we not work like that because this is so easy to go in one way that doesn't do anything for the users,
Mm.
and then you have done for that for nothing. So what I'm trying to push him, it's very hard because he refused to listen. It's like, let's do one thing you can do today, you can release today. Every day you can release something. Split it in tiny points, and then
Yeah,
we
that's
release
really good.
them. Yeah, and then we sure everything we're doing is making sense. And lately, for example, he did something like a multi-part upload. He was like convinced he will help all users because we had some upload problem on certain users. Took him 3 days. I was like, do it simpler, please. Don't do security anything. We don't care. Just try it to see if they fucking use it or not. He released it after 3 days because I push him very to the minimum, and no one used it. I put tracking in it, and there are zero users. It was like 3 or 4 users complaining. We did that for them. They didn't never try it. I was like, you see that we can trash it. It's useless. It's like,
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. It's the first I've heard of it, but yeah, we kind of employ that still today. Like, there's very rare things that would take more than a week, maybe 2 weeks of development time
yeah,
without releasing it to users. And at this stage, we're pretty big, and we've got the capacity to do that. But again, like we still don't, we're still in that culture of like really identifying and trying to test what people want before like investing heavily in it. And so I think it's a good strategy to basically try to split. If you want to do something big, try and split it down into very, very small chunks of work. One example is when we launched our password protection feature really early on. Basically, it was set up in such a way that when you enabled it, it didn't really set a password. We were basically manually like setting a password in the backend for
Yeah.
users to test it, and we had a customer basically sign up and pay for that feature, and then he basically was saying, how do I change the
Does it
password?
work?
We said to them, yeah, I mean, just send us the password and we'll update it. Sorry, there's like a technical bug with the system, but we can update it for you. But in reality, we just didn't have that feature properly implemented.
Yeah.
And so he was very confused. But then it was obviously a success and a good feature that people now can seem to use. And it's it. I think it's just be a lazy engineer in a really good way. Like obviously don't build bugs into your system, but try to be as lazy or as efficient as possible to ship features because you're going to be way better off than spending 2 weeks to a month building something and no one uses it.
Yeah, definitely. Also, if I believe there are something I really try to get far from is the idea like, okay, my project has 2 years old now. Every time I ship something, it has to be as the same quality of as the rest. Often we have this idea like, okay, my quality is there, so if I do something new, the quality should match. But for me, no, like every new branch, new thing should be displayed in a way to the users, like he knows this is like beta or like new, and there will be less quality probably, but this is to try and to see if there are traction on it, and the rest is very stable. But not everything all the time has to be super stable, otherwise you're gonna go in process like infinite of time and you cannot iterate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think, and I still know like big companies today that release features in beta, and there's a reason they put a beta label on it because they know it's not the same quality. Google do it all the time as well, still. And then after they're happy with it, they see some feedback from it. They then launch it into a proper product, and then they charge people for it. But yeah, it's a strategy that works whether you're small or
Yeah,
big.
I really love Cloudflare as an example for that. Like, for example, lately, first, they don't announce anything. It's like you have to be users, mostly to see the new things. I mean, it's in the blog, but it's not really like on the website everywhere. And when they release something new, for example, they released like few weeks ago, analytics database, which is like a ClickHouse database. And basically, there are no UI. If you want to access to it, it's only with the CLI, and you can create things from there. But the rest is like invisible on their website. You cannot find anything. You have the documentation, and that's it, and the CLI to use it. And I really love this way they build things, like in Cloudflare, because the product's super useful. I did directly use it and ditch my ClickHouse, who was like a mess to maintain. And yeah, there's still no front end, nothing related in their website about it. And it's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense because it is a lot of work as well to create all the documentation around it and the tutorials and guides and everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier just to ship something to a user, see people are using it, see people stumble upon it, and then make it into a bigger kind of thing. It's just it's easier, and it's you procrastinate less because you're like, I can't release this until I update documentation, until I add this button here, and until I do this. Where you can just launch it and people discover it, and in fact, like if they discover it and like it that way, it's probably a really good test that you're getting people
Yes.
that
It's a very
want
good
to use
project
it.
market fit.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to when you put it on your website, put it on your homepage, send emails about it, tweet about it, tell everyone about it. You'll have people coming to use it, but mainly because maybe you marketed it really well, but the feature actually wasn't that useful to them.
Yeah, or sometimes you will attract people, new users to your platform, but then they are not really your target audience, because you're getting a bit off track with your new
Yeah.
feature. So you attract new people, but then they will be like not happy about the product mainly because they are just be attracted by the new thing, which is unrelated to what they wanted really. And then you're like, okay, now I have users. I don't know what to do with them. They're just complaining. It's,
Yeah.
I believe, yeah, the more capillarity way where people find themselves for new features is very nice because you will have a few people. They will know they experiment, so they will have less chance to complain, and you can experiment with them and grow with them. So very good. Do you use tools like Microsoft Clarity or Jar or things to watch session of users?
Yeah, we have Clarity installed. We used to use Hotjar very heavily at the beginning, but we just have so many users now that
It's too expensive.
I'll be watching like I don't know, 10 Hollywood movie lengths of content a day to get through. And yeah, but I think we should use it more smartly, maybe for new features and specific things we're trialing out. Clarity is really, really good, I think.
Yeah.
I think early on it's like one of the best tools you can use, because especially because you may have on a good day like 5 to 10 users come to, and you can just see exactly what they do. And this stuff you can't really get in normal, like, quantitative metrics. Just seeing somebody, use your product will give you so many ideas when you see it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think at the beginning it's very good still to do interview or have talk with people. For me, I have a community Discord where people can ask me questions and stuff, so that helped me a lot to understand
Yeah,
they need and what they want and what they don't like. But on the other side, yeah, definitely Clarity is very good tool. For me, the most loved feature I like for Clarity is the reg click percentage and the dead click percentage. I just
mm,
go often to go there and see like, okay, the guy don't understand shit about my UX. I have to fix that because he's clicking somewhere he's not made to click,
mm,
or just like you wanted to make it work by right clicking on it. And I discovered so many mistakes in the experience because you imagine the experience in a certain way and then people are
yeah.
using it totally differently and you're like, oh god.
What's yeah, yeah,
And also sometimes I found out there are very simple thing you thought this is a good idea and this is such a bad idea. For example, in CapGo, I have a button somewhere you can delete a bundle. It's a bit like you, TinyHost, you're hosting like the website. Me, I am hosting the bundle which is going to a mobile app using
yeah.
HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So basically, it's the same thing. I'm versioning every version and store all of them. And on my platform, you can have channels like a production channel, a stage channel, a development channel, and every kind of different users can get in the app which version, which bundle, depending on the channel they are. And so sometimes there are users, they want to delete one bundle, but the bundle is linked to a channel. So what I was like, okay, what I will do, I will show a pop-up to say, okay, this bundle is already linked to a channel, so you cannot download it. And then
Mm,
what I got in Clarity is the guy is right-clicking on delete. Where I just, in fact, what they want is to delete it. So why put a model to tell them they can't? If they really
yeah,
want it, you should show a model and say, okay, this is linked. What do you want to do? Unlinked and put another version or something else, or disable the channel. Give the users the ability to do what he wants, not block him with a nice idea model. Where he will explain to the users. Yeah, he doesn't care. He just wants to do the thing.
yeah. 100%.
Let's go back to a bit of your story. I think there's something I think interesting in like you. So the second things you started, it was the app where you got VC backed, right? And what was the project? I think I didn't get what was he was
Yeah, so
doing.
it wasn't VC backed. It had an investor,
Okay,
but
it's
it
like
was
love
more
money.
like a sorry.
It's like love money, like someone you know around or
Yeah. It was
yeah,
like so my co-founder had a family friend who basically had a law firm, and they
yeah.
wanted to build some software for it. So it was a project initially just set up to build software for them, and then realized that we could turn it into a SaaS. And that was basically software to help law firms, automate tasks. So it was essentially time tracking for law firms initially. and so it allowed you to for lawyers basically to figure out where they spend their time during the day, because in that profession, like every minute or every 6 minutes, for example, in the UK is a billable unit of time. And so you need to be able to identify, how much to charge the client and, where your time has gone. And so they wanted an automated kind of, tracking kind of tool for that. And that was what we kind of built, which was a cool product. It was the company was based in India, and I was leading it from here, so it was a remote company for me anyway. But we built, it was the first time like I built quite a sophisticated cloud, platform that had users on it, and it was B2B. It wasn't kind of consumer software, and there was a team of engineers, so I had to learn how to manage and put things together from a people perspective. So that was a really good experience, and also just confident booster that I could build something like that was big and scalable to a certain extent.
And what made you stop this project? This is still existing, or did you?
Yeah,
What was
so
the end?
my co-founders have taken it on, and they've continued to work on it. But I think for me, that project, because I was full time on that. So number one, like income was really important to have that by the end of the year. Um, and I think just that income wasn't there. That was enabled me to continue working on it for that year. And so um, and that's one of the reasons. Yeah, after that, I went on to more projects that were just bootstrapped and either part-time projects or projects that really generated revenue from zero day zero to really help me be self-sustainable. So I don't
Yeah.
need to wait some time or get investor money to continue to build upon that. So yeah, it was that, and plus I think it was a longer, harder project and industry to build in, and so the business side just wasn't taken off as much as fast as I liked it to have been. And yeah, that also is a big element of drive and passion, and what keeps a project and startup exciting is just people using it. I think for me now, like just
Yeah.
having lots of people to use and giving feedback, getting real customers on it is exciting, and even more exciting than for me building the actual tool, because it's actually useful to people. And so when that's not there, and there's probably a lack of like finance around it, it can be difficult to continue that.
Yeah. So the project is continuing without you, or the co-founder stopped as well?
No, they've taken it on. They've continued to build it. So it was, I guess, one project, one startup of other things they were doing, and I think
Hmm.
post COVID it seemed to have done a little bit better. But yeah, it's still going on and continuing in that way. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share like about how do you exit from a project who was like not making money? You just say, okay, I leave, and you get out of the company, or you are like you find a new
Yeah,
money
I think it.
agreement? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't like an argument or anything like that. In a sense, it was more like just. I think at the beginning, expectations were set that. Um, well, I wanted to really, see where we'd get to 1 year later. And at that point, again, it wasn't anywhere near the expectations. And it was, yeah, just a discussion saying like, this is where I'm at. And because the business isn't that side, I basically needed to go, and look for another job.
Yeah.
Um, and that was it. And one option was to, continue working with it on the side, but I think it just needed someone, more full time. And it was just a good time for kind of a switch over and a reset. So, um, but it was, yeah, very, amicable terms. So, yeah, friends with them. But also I think personally, the industry and the area of the product wasn't something I was super passionate and interested about as well.
Yeah.
And so I was more kind of interested in stuff related to web and toolings around that. So yeah, It just ended up becoming a better decision.
Yeah, understandable. So I think like the question was more about like how did you set up the term of stopping this collaboration? Because I was in this position before, and I know this is happening often. Like you have a project not really kicking out, but it's a working kind of, it's in between. So you're like, oh, should I leave or not? And
Okay.
I had this conversation with many people. Like they are like, yeah, but if I leave, I lose my share, or what I should do with my share because they don't have money and stuff like that. So did you have this kind of question?
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't as difficult, mainly because I needed an income, and that was it. Really,
Mm-hmm.
like for that year, I wasn't, earning an income, and so I needed an income very soon, and so the options were either kind of, go and get a job or stay without an income, and so the income kind of side took over, and so yeah, it was basically like that. I think. There were obviously parts that I missed about the team and the company and having built everything like that. But then also just having the experience and knowledge now to build stuff. I was just excited to build like some new things and do
Yeah.
things again, just for my own way. And so yeah, it wasn't like a hard decision. I think it was based on just me setting a date to think about like where if I wanted to continue this or not. And then it came to that date, and then things weren't aligned the way that I expected to be. And so at that point, yeah, I needed to make that big decision.
Yeah, makes sense, makes sense. For me, the thing what happened is so I was CTO of a company and I truly believe in the project. It
Yeah.
can succeed, but I didn't believe much I will enjoy the
Mm.
succeed on it because
Yeah.
we will probably need to raise money and stuff like that. So we came to an agreement like, okay, I'm leaving, so I have shares, and these shares, like if I will take them now as money, that will kill them basically. So they were like, okay, we cannot do that. And so we find an agreement where we sign something like if they manage to raise money and to
Mm.
become big, then at this time I will be able to buy back my share with a bit of premium because I let them the money in, but that allow me to get out without feeling like, okay, I lost everything or they cannot pay me or go in bad terms. And in the same time, I kind of support them because I told them, okay, I'm leaving, but I'm still believing in the project, so I'm not taking my shares now, and it will be later on when you can pay them back.
Yeah. That sounds like a good creative solution. Yeah. How did that company end up
They are
going?
still growing,
Yeah.
not as big as they would, but they are growing and they are basically they were doing tools for finance automation in Python for big company, and
Okay.
now AI is kicking in, and there are many new things they can do. So they are trying to do like IA agents for internal into the financial department of a big company to help them understand where is the money, how to handle the money, how much they earn, and stuff like that. So they are still building, but now it seems the market time is way better for them because before they
Mm.
wanted to do that, but there was no ChatGPT, so that was way harder. But yeah, now it starts to get better. But
Yeah.
yeah, still not easy for them because when you have been for so long, you have also legacy and stuff, and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, no, sounds like a similar story. Yes, I mean, I think, and sometimes you want to just be part of like more fast-growing, projects and startups than something which like will just take a long time to, really get there. Especially if it's your first like proper successful company, and maybe you don't have a deep interest in that. There are some, yeah, like products which take a long time to get anywhere. Like I'm sure with OpenAI, ChatGPT was in development for a
yeah,
very long time before anyone ever saw it, and now look at it. And so. But yeah, for most products, you don't want to do that.
yeah, definitely. And for me, that's one of the reason to have VC funding. Like if
Yeah.
time to development will be super long because there are reasons like it's research based on stuff like IA based or stuff like take eternity to get. Maybe getting VC is the way because you will never make money very fast, for sure. But it's still a very risky game. You don't know
Yeah.
after so long where you're gonna be. Ah, yeah. I'm happy to be out of VC world because like I find like it's way more fun to wake up like a morning and you say, okay, yesterday during the night I made 300 euro for a new client and you didn't know where it came from, and you find new use case. They find new use case of your product you didn't even think about. Like, I find that very
100%.
amusing.
Yeah, and it's just liberating to know that it's you and your founders. There's no outside, push and direction for it. And also, you don't need to waste time trying to convince. That's the biggest thing, I think. You don't have to waste time convincing people that your idea is going to work. You just go and build it and you show people like it's
Yeah,
worked. Like if I went to, people before and said, I'm going to build this hosting app and, it's going to be this big and, we really need it. I think it would have been very difficult to convince anyone, and even myself, because I didn't really know where it was going to go. And that uncertainty, investors like certainty, and so
yeah.
uncertainty is like very bad. But like sometimes you just got to build a very uncertain product and figure it out as you go along. And that's way better bootstrapped. And then you own basically all of that as well because you've put the work in to get there.
Yeah, yeah, the difference is crazy. Like if you want to cash out the same amount of money, you need to go way less further. So it's
Yeah,
make your journey way easier. Because
exactly.
going to $1 million company, it's a hard job, and you know already when you're building a project, like every step you're like looking at your mind and understanding, okay, my mind doesn't think well through this thing and that block me. So you have to unlock it, find solution to unlock it. And to go to $1 billion company, you have so many things to unlock. Good luck.
Exactly. And yeah, and you may just run out of money along the way, and then that's it.
Mm,
The story's over, which is sad as well. But yeah, like I think it's interesting that most companies or like founders and new founders these days, they probably know of bootstrapping, but they seem to go through the default like investor VC route. Whereas it really should be the opposite, where it's like, I want to just build a company myself with people, and then, if I want to raise later, if I need to, then raise. But yeah, at a level where you don't really know what you're doing, you're going to give away a lot of your company to someone that also that knows even less about what you're doing and wants their money back. And so there's a lot of pressure, tension to make something work. Whereas in the bootstrap way, you can do what you want with it. You turn it into a lifestyle company, take it away big,
yeah.
sell it. When it reaches a few K MRR, there's a lot of things you can do with it.
I found out this year I feel there are really way more bootstrapping company than before. Like this is
Yeah,
really booming. Like I see so many people, and or what I was sharing, for example, on Twitter about my journey like a year ago, I felt like I was okay. I was doing very great, and now I see like so many people are doing as great as me. It's very cool. Anyway, but that's make my post less displayed and stuff like that. But
yeah.
it's also meaning it's the more people joining and going this path. So that's make me very happy.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, and I think the whole VC dry up like last year, the tech bubble kind of, a lot of tech stocks died. That forced people to now, think about bootstrapping now for the first time.
Yeah,
And I'm glad more people, are open their eyes to it. Because it just means more chance. It also means more chance of success, and I don't think people realize that. Like, if your company only generates 5 to 10K a month, it's actually a successful company in the sense that you can live off that, you can sell it. But if it only generates 5 to 10K a month and it's VC backed, it's failure. It's going to be shut down at some point.
yeah.
They're just gonna want you to sell it, and you'll get nothing out of it basically. And so, um, it's like going to a casino and starting a company and just putting all of your money on red straight
All
away.
red.
Yeah, all
Yes.
red, as opposed to just like yeah, playing some games for fun and just enjoying it. And I think I
Mhm.
don't know why everyone seems to think that's the way to start a company. Just go and put all your money on red, and then hope it makes makes you rich or whatever. But in reality, it doesn't.
Also, I believe the by not going all the VC way, because VC wants something. They want like to do X10, X30, they money basically. So you have to get very big, and that's mean many company doesn't fit this. You know, like
Mhm.
a company helping a very niche
Yeah,
will never go super big. So this project before didn't exist, and basically
exactly.
this niche were just struggling with their problem. And now more and more we're gonna have a bootstrapping businesses. We're gonna make good money for people. So more money will have more people will have good money, and also more users will have better services
Yeah,
because they are
100%.
addressable market now.
Because I mean, there was I don't know, like a Google Sheets plugin I saw the other day, which was making like 20K MRR, and like that's not a VC backed company, but clearly helping a lot of people solve a problem they have in Google Sheets, and he's making a
Yeah,
good income from it. And both people are happy. Like it's great. Like we need more of those kind of small projects and products out there, as opposed to like everyone trying to build the next, Facebook or something out there.
yeah. I like the idea of we are kind of artisan, web artisan. You know,
Mm,
like
yeah,
before you have the guy doing pottery in your village and stuff like that,
yeah,
and now we have these indie makers are reproducing this on internet. You know,
yeah.
doing tiny things very specialized. So that's I really love this idea. That's something earlier we were talking about the idea of tiny host, and I was wondering like. What bring you to the idea of doing tiny host?
Yeah,
Brought you?
I think most of my products and ideas have pretty much been based off my experiences, and that's a really good way of like, building and finding an idea of something is build something that you want because, chances are someone else, wants it. And Tiny was an idea that came from me based on, what I've done for previous companies I've worked for. So there are a couple, two or three companies where I worked for, and then, they needed, a static web host, and so I knew how to use S3 and AWS, and like, in a few hours I set up everything that can, work for them. And then I realized that this would actually be a very, very useful tool if um, it was just automated in some way. If you can, just click a few buttons and they just set it up for you. And so I did, a lot of things they didn't tell you, which is like, they tell you not to do, like, market research, launch without marketing research, like you should speak to people before you build a product, pre-validate it. Did none of that and just, built it and shipped it. And in reality, hindsight, if I did a lot of that, I probably wouldn't have stuck to the idea or launched the idea because there were a
Yeah,
few bigger, products out there that had this as a feature. But the problem was it was so buried in their tool set that no one seemed to use it. It wasn't as accessible, wasn't easy to use. And yeah, there was a bit of luck in the sense that I picked the industry that was very big as web hosting. It was validated. People were always gonna, want to upload HTML to the web.
yeah,
And so it made my job easier. And then, but then what Tiny is today is not what I had my initial vision for as well. It was just I wanted to do this, want to learn about marketing. I launched it, and then I just saw how people used it, and then optimized for that. And that's a lot of the times that's what some good ideas come from. It's not you don't have a grand vision for something, you don't have it all mapped out. You just seek some kind of problem space or some kind of thing you think you can make easier or cheaper, and you start
yeah,
doing that. And then eventually you get users that like what you're doing, and then you build more and more into that space, and you have a really good product because you've basically you're an expert in that space now, and you're building the best version for people. And so it's a journey. It's about exploration. It's about figuring things out along the way. It's never about I have this idea, I'm going to build it, and then it's done. You're always developing, speaking to users. understanding, how people are using the product and thinking smart ways how to improve it. And that becomes your moat, right? That becomes how you become successful because you had the core thing and then you've kind of built around it in ways that are super helpful.
Yeah. I've seen something in me change over time when I was building CapGo. At the beginning, I had very strong vision about how the product should evolve. And more I realized talking with users, my vision is shit. Like my vision is not what people want, the
Yeah,
users wants. And so it took me a while to accept like, okay, my vision has to die to let the vision build with the users grows. And when I started to do that, it started to kick out way better. I was
of
like
course.
very impressed. It's just doing people what they want.
Yeah, just give people what they want. Let your users should be defining the roadmap. I think you should have the best kind of picture of it because you basically kind of the visibility of across all your users, and you should probably have that instinct to realize like a product strategy. But it needs to be very, very heavily backed, and the foundation needs to be on what users are telling you about
Yeah,
the problems that they're experiencing. Like sometimes it's just very basic. I had a friend who runs kind of well, initially was like an NLP AI project, which it was helping people to automate notes. And they had this grand idea of like, being able to with, AI just, contextualize notes and stuff like this. This is pre-chat GPT. But when they actually launched it, they realized people just wanted a form where they can fill in and, gather notes because they don't even have that yet. And so if you had this vision for something very grand and try to push it, they would have failed because people weren't ready for that yet. People just wanted something before that. But you have that bigger
yeah.
vision that eventually you'll get there. But before that, sometimes it's just the basic things that people want and they'll pay you for. And maybe they're not interesting products, they're not interesting things to code, but you're building something useful to people, and that's what you need to
Yes.
to make the
I,
sacrifice. Especially
I
as
have a very
engineers,
good example of that.
yeah, you always want to make things difficult. You want to throw AI in there. You want to have this cool like Kubernetes cluster of like Dockerized architecture, and people just want to, upload a file on one node
Yeah. Yes,
server,
exactly.
and that's enough. That works.
Funnily for me, like so in CapGo, one of the most thing like I thought could be very good is to have a partial download. So if an app got a new update and there was only one file change, as you will
Yeah.
do for your hosting, you want only to download one. And right now it download the full zip again because I didn't build the architecture for that. So I thought that was very, very important. But what I saw for users, that was requested, but the first request was very more funny. They was just wanted an organization system. They want to add people into their organization to manage the app in the organization.
Mm.
And as a founder, technical founder, you find organization is such a boring thing. It's like
Mm.
it just will bring you so much mess, but no fun at all. But it was the main thing that made me double like my armor lately, just by doing that. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's
And
do it.
it comes back to like you need to make sacrifices again. Like it's not all fun and games. There are a lot of fun and games, but you need to make sacrifices if you want to start a business. And if you want to
Yeah.
if you want to build a project, like I think people get confused. If you want to build a project, just build it. Like, then just but don't expect it to make money if you just are the only person building it and have the vision and are really interested in the tech and that kind of stuff. But if you really want to if you're serious about making money, making a business, leaving your job to start something, be very honest and be aware that it's not going to be, just developing, playing with new technology, building cool stuff. There's a lot of just boring stuff in between, but that gives you
Yes.
the resources and license to build cool stuff eventually. It's a different game.
Yeah. Right now, one thing I recommend often is if you are in any niche, like for example, you like to build a mobile app, you like to do, I don't know, poker, whatever. Go there and find tiny tools you could do for yourself
Hmm.
that can be helpful or helpful for the community, and just build that as for fun. Don't try to market it, make it super simple, like build it in a weekend, release, buy. next things, and do that often. That will create you first kind of a reputation and a name in your niche. And at
Yeah.
one point, by doing this much idea, you will get better idea coming towards you, and some idea can become a business. So
Yeah.
there you can pick the best one and do that. It will be
Yeah.
way easier than try to find the best idea you could, and you will have already a marketing channel because you have proved to people you're making useful stuff.
You're shipping products. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have talked a bit about everything. No, I have one question about tiny host, because I think this is a very funny question you should have often. Um, how did you think or find like hosting was something you could do? Because there's so many projects out there. Like,
Mm.
what was the thing you find what was not well made in hosting you could do better? What was the difference for you that pushed you to do it?
To pursue this idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, and I put a tweet out the other day that explains this a bit more. I think like something like magical things really happen when you take like very boring ideas and people who are interested in that space and just they become experts and produce products in it. So yeah, hosting is not the most interesting thing, but I think it's a combination. And when you're picking ideas, try to pick things where you have an expertise and an interest in. And it probably goes back to me, when I was 13, the fascination with putting things on the web and having a website and how that kind of
yeah,
works. That was just really interesting in me. And I'm not an infrastructure engineer at all. I'm more of a front-end engineer, to be honest. I find that, way more interesting. But it was a combination of things. It was the opportunity to simplify like complex problems, and that's where I realized like I really enjoy doing it through good UI and UX.
yeah,
It was the margins which were available in hosting. Like as a solo engineer, solo founder, you want to make your business as profitable as possible. So like web hosting, especially static web hosting, which we still do, it's very, very profitable because the core storage costs is very, very low. Especially if you use like, Amazon S3 and these kind of cloud services. Um, yeah, and it was just the fact that I could build an easy SaaS around it. So there were lots of things which were there. But the core is definitely just I had some kind of interest in it, and so yeah, I think it's really important to tie it up because it's going to get tough, and there's going to be times where obviously it's not going well, but you must have that kind of interest that just keeps you going through it. So pick something that you have an expertise or interest in rather than something brand new because if you don't have an interest in it, it's not, yeah, you're gonna find it
yeah,
very difficult to get through those times.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Like when you're gonna get the time when it's only boring stuff, yeah,
Yeah,
you will feel lonely if you don't enjoy it at all.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a question about MRR and revenue. So, do you share publicly your MRR right now, or you don't share anymore?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you found me when I posted, I think, the 20K MRR
Ah,
tweet.
yes, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just passed, yeah, 20K MRR.
So my question towards that is because there are one thing, they are like, okay, you build a product and you try to get new clients, but
Yep.
there are also a thing when you start to have revenue is like, how do you maintain a good revenue based on the income and the costs? So do you have something you have done in this path that made you like were a game changer into optimizing revenue?
You mean based on like fixed costs of the business?
Yes.
I think like inherently, like because of web hosting, the costs are very, very low. And you especially like in the economics of web hosting is like storage costs and bandwidth is basically the main, costs besides people and staff. So if storage cost is the cheapest, but then bandwidth is most expensive, and so
Yeah.
like if you have if every one of users are basically getting millions of views on all their content. Web hosting doesn't make a lot of sense economically. But most users are just sharing it to a few hundred people here and there, and so yeah, we haven't optimized costs as much because the costs are pretty fixed. I mean, still to this day, our fixed cloud costs are basically like maybe 5%, I think 5-6% of revenue.
Okay.
We have a team now, and so there's less investment around that. But yeah, we're fortunate to not have expensive bills. I know, like Veed, for example, their video editor, they have the
Yes, the
compute
video is
servers
crazy
required
on.
for that are crazy, and so
Yeah,
with their story, they had to beg and borrow Google credits basically to make it work. Otherwise, they've been out of business basically because they wouldn't have made it work. But for us, luckily, we were there. And some of these AI projects as well. Like if you're getting a lot of users, especially if they're not paying, it's expensive. You're paying for the credits
yeah,
to use this stuff. So yeah, I was fortunate in being in a space where the costs are very cheap. It's like form builders as well, right? Like the costs are very low. What you're actually selling is the interface and the accessibility around it, and your creative way of building the product for users, and that's where they get the value from. So yeah, haven't had that a problem as such, but yeah, it can be.
Oh, I'm seeing on your website right now you have a free plan. So
Mhm.
that's very interesting. This is like two sides, like opinion topic in the bootstrapper community because many say like since you're bootstrapping, you cannot finance that, but you have that. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, and we didn't have a free plan until about I think maybe a year or two in, basically. We had a free trial of like 7 days, and then eventually your
Hmm.
site just got deleted. But what we noticed is that after a certain point, to really grow and to get more users, we had to introduce the free tier properly. And did it like just over a year ago. And it's just been a game changer in terms of traffic, mainly because our product as well, like it's inherently viral in the sense that if everyone that uploads something and then shares it to somebody, there's the tiny branding
Mm,
in the URL, but there's also the tiny branding in on the website because we had an ad, basically a banner to every free site that's uploaded. And so for us, it made a lot of sense eventually, and we wouldn't have grown to 150K plus visitors a month without that. But I think it you have to. I wouldn't say it's like you shouldn't or you should. It really depends on the context of your product. And I think early on, if you can avoid it, yes, like try to avoid it. Maybe put like credit card trials or
mm,
limited time trials because it also just helps you validate things a little better when people are using it. Um, and depending on your cost as well. Like if it's super cheap, then maybe you can give things for free and then just get feedback. I think like we didn't even have a monetization idea until like 3 or 4 months in, mainly because I didn't really know what people were using for, and so it's another issue is that if you are again talking back to like founder vision versus customer and user vision, like if if you have a fixed plan, you're basically going on a founder vision that you think people are
yes.
going to pay to use this feature and upgrade. If that's wrong, then you're gonna fail. But if it's free and you get users who use it and they give you feedback and they basically tell you need to add this feature and that feature, then that's a way better strategy sometimes. And you don't need to be free forever. You don't need to be free for all features. We have a very restricted free plan, but it's enough for people to use it from a limited time. And you can grow it that way. So I don't like subscribe to like this you need to charge for everything or you need to be free for everything. Like it's very contextual.
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely, side with not being free initially, but be open to it if you think like it can actually help, and give you either two things: either users, so you get lots of feedback, or it just gets you like viral growth, right? Which is important sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. For me, um, on the beginning, I did something very funny. Like everything was free because like I wanted to ship so fast. Then I thought like even putting Stripe integration will be like
Mm.
too much hassle. So I started like just for free, like
Yeah,
use it, linked
that's
and
what I did.
everything. And then I got people contacting me on the super and say it looked very nice, but I don't find the pricing page. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, okay, I will build the price. No worry. Now I have
but it was
users. I
actually free,
know.
but they were wondering how do I pay for it?
Yeah. It was free, but it was not wrote anywhere. So I didn't
Yeah.
even put a pricing page. So it was not even mentioned it
Yeah,
was
and people,
free.
you're right. People get suspicious about that. Like, why are you completely free? Like, why are you not charging? People expect to pay now, and they never used to. But or at least they expect there to be a free and a paid tier, so they feel a bit more safe, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting that psychology.
Yeah. So that was the first step, and after I created the plan, but as I was saying, I wanted to ship it fast. I didn't put any limits on the plan. So the plan were saying, okay, I mean, you have limits displayed, but in the product there were no limits. So you
Yeah,
could still use for free everything, but at least it was a pricing page and you can click and subscribe. And I got people
yeah,
clicking, like they were like, okay, I'm using this, I want this. I was
yeah.
like, okay, that's interesting.
I should build a payment solution. Yeah,
Yeah. But I truly believe in that. You can do it naturally without forcing yourself. Now I don't have free plan anymore because I have I have a lot of people trying, and I'm not looking people for features. So every plan has the same features. You just have more bandwidth. Because like same as you, I'm that's my main cost, bandwidth and storage. So that's what's changed between plans, but same feature everywhere. So from the tiniest plan at 14 a month,
yeah.
I have a lot of feedback for people, and they can try for I don't know for 2 weeks. I think for 14 days they can try the product for free, and then they start to
Cool.
be charged.
Yeah, I think yeah, like it shouldn't be a case necessary sometimes where you need to force people to pay. They sometimes just want to try something out, but like if it's of value to somebody, they should pay, I think.
Yeah. So I will come back to my question because I found like that's something interesting. When you quit the VC baked, I mean the money
Investor
funded
back, yeah.
investment based company, you wanted to go on IndieMaker journey, and
Mhm.
as you say now you have a team. So what make you go to IndieMaker, and what make you build a team afterward again?
Yeah, I, for me, indie maker doesn't necessarily mean teamless. It just
Hmm.
means um, building it solo, for example, firstly, but then um, and then figuring out what needs to be done after that. I think again, like I'm very surprised by very a lot of these like solo, only solo only hackers where they got so much traffic and they're struggling to basically stay afloat when they don't hire because they're very proud of everything being done themselves. I mean, the reality is like if you want to grow something and get far, um, you can't do it alone. Like really, really far. You need some help. Like there is no one person, multi-million pound company. There's no one person multi-billion pound company. Even if they do and they may get to some stage, there's definitely people they've like hired to achieve things like freelancers or contractors along the
Hmm.
way. And maybe they're not co-founders or they're part of the team, but that's there. And so yeah, I was always for me indie hacking and bootstrapping was all about doing it without VCs and also trying to do it without a co-founder. It wasn't much more than that. It wasn't like I wanted to hack just by myself.
Okay.
And I think I always had a vision to try to take it as big as I can. And I enjoy the part where I'm, managing people, having a team around me, because you can achieve more as a group, like than you can individually, 100%. Like when you now you could make bigger, bets, you could make, bigger dents in the market, release more complex features faster. And so that has always been like the idea, basically, for me.
Do you have employee now or just freelancers?
We don't really have employees. We mainly work on contractors and freelancers, so
Yeah, yeah.
fractional and contracts basis. And they're all remote across the world, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think when I started the podcast, I was really thinking about the vision of building in solo, but I do believe this is solo in the company, and I really like this vision where we're not having employee anymore because I believe employee kind of put everyone in the mindset where there's some hierarchy between you and others, and then people kind of remove themselves from certain responsibility.
Mm,
And now I have like a freelance working with me. I can see he's super responsible of his own thing and taking decision because he believes like this is he has his own company as well, you know. So he's very autonomous in his way of working. And that's what really I believe right now is the way of indie makers is like we are like all have our solo company, but still
yeah,
working together and helping each other.
yeah, yeah. It's changing, and you can do that now because of the way you can hire internationally, and how you can basically build remote companies. It wasn't a thing 10, 15 years ago, but it's what you can leverage.
Yeah, definitely. I'm wondering what's the legality of that because I know in France, for example, you cannot have if you have someone a contractor working full time on your project, he should be an employee by default, and he can ask to become an employee by
Yeah.
law. But I'm wondering in other countries like in Estonia how it is because they have things. For example, for me, my company is in Estonia, and they have things for contractor, long-term contractor. So it seems made for that,
I
but they
think
need
I
it.
think France is probably the strictest labor laws in the world. I
Yes,
know that
sure.
the US is complete opposite. Like US by default is 2 weeks notice to
Yeah.
regardless of how long you've been there, it's 2 weeks notice. The UK is kind of maybe in between. Most countries, their laws are not as developed, but there are things you gotta work around and figure out as well. But it's you can manage those.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can go to my final questions of the podcast, and we can finish this podcast. It was very nice to have you
Oh, yeah.
here. One of my final question is, what do you wish someone has told you before you started?
What I wish someone's told me. I think one thing that was super helpful is find a mentor who's just slightly ahead of you, um, doing just a little bit better than you are. I think I accidentally found that within the community, and that really helped with everything, right? Like I figured out, how to get to where they were,
Yeah,
based on their advice, and because they are quite new as well to that stage. It's fresh in their head, right? Like you going to Mark Zuckerberg or going to I don't know whoever and asking how do I
yes,
start my company is probably the worst person in the world because what's in their head, what they understand now is completely different to what they were doing back then. Yes, they can remember it, but the game has changed. It's been a long time.
yeah, they're not doing the
You want to
same.
find someone who's like just building something new and got maybe a few $100 MRR. Like if you had 1K MRR, find someone at 5K MRR or 10K MRR and ask how they got from 1 to 10, 1 to 5 to 10. That's super helpful and that really can, I think, change things. I think if you're talking just before I build Tiny, that would be important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in general, like finding mentors is very important and
Yeah.
sometimes forgotten because like you're like on your own and no one can relate around you, and you have only recommendation basically of people who have done nothing and tell you how to do things, and you're like that will not help you either. So it's very important to have someone like is willing to talk with you often and like help you to shape better your mind around the topics, and definitely someone
Yeah.
close. It's for me the most relevant. You're so right. When I've been a coding teacher at one point, I was telling to my students, it's like, don't ask me how I will do things, because the
Yeah,
way I'm thinking is so far from you. Try to find someone in the class, like just manage to do it and ask him,
mm,
because he will teach you way more than me. And they were
of
like,
course.
no. Say, of
Yeah, I
course,
know.
yes, because he just understood it. So he
Yeah,
knows where you've been. Me is like
exactly.
10 years. So what I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain to
people
you
seem
is
to
doesn't
say
make
it.
sense.
And again, like people seem to really, look and idolize like big entrepreneurs, and they try to copy all their habits, like, wake up at 5:30 a.m., go to the gym, do this and that, get good night's
Yeah,
sleep and that kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of times they're doing that because that's their life and they need to. They're just so busy. They're running a big company that's really important to them. But it's not what they were probably doing like really early on when they're just shipping the product for the first time. There's a tweet I put out where Mark Zuckerberg was sleeping on a kitchen floor. Like he doesn't still sleep on a kitchen floor, and
yeah,
that was basically because he was working and just paying really low rent and just basically very much focused on that. And you got to find there's probably other guys doing that right now who are like making just starting off. And that advice you wouldn't have got from like Idols or TechCrunch or these kind of big brands.
yeah. Funnily, I got this kind of not useful recommendation from an entrepreneur this weekend. Where I live in Madeira Island, here there are one big entrepreneur. He's like multimillionaire. He has many websites. He started with
Mm.
porn in France, and now he has so many things. And I was talking with him like about my project, and another guy was talking about his side project, and he looked at us and said, "Guys, I have 1 million euro of a project like no one take care about in my company. So stop doing shit in your side businesses and take one and make 80,000 a month with it."
Mm.
And we're like, "Ah, yeah, we're definitely in such a different place than your problem right now is to make money with the things that are sleeping."
100%. And so like people just misunderstand that. It's really important to find like I think a mastermind is really cool. Masterminds with people who are within similar MRRs, like very, very helpful.
But that's a bit what you add with the community now in London with
Yeah, yeah,
IndieMaker.
100%. And communities again are super important. Like I try to join them, yeah, as much as you can. You're in Madeira, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I run indie beers in Lisbon, and that's been super helpful as well. So if you're ever there, come on over.
Yeah, yeah. I said I will join definitely because in Madeira
Yeah,
we are not enough people. I'm even thinking to make
yeah. I think
people.
there's enough people in Madeira that you should start one as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely something I do want to do, and I was thinking to even record the podcast in real life to bring people to
Ah,
visit
that
Madeira,
that'd be
and
a
then
really good
maybe I will
idea.
make them
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah, yeah, an excuse for them to be there. But yeah, the communities are so helpful. And just but in the community, the good parts of communities. I mean, I strongly believe in the whole like you're the average of the five people around you that you
Yes.
can closest to. And there's a lot of like vanity communities for founders and entrepreneurship because it's like a cool thing to do. Like I have a company and. But a lot of people in those communities are not actually doing anything. They're just pretending they're doing stuff. And but like the indie hacker community is very much like action based, but generating revenue. They have to, not looking to
Yeah.
convince people about their idea, convince investors. They're just trying to find hacks and growth and good ideas to get things off the ground, and that's super cool. And it's very very open community. They're very keen on sharing and helping each other, which is nice.
Yeah. So if you're living in Lisbon, go to the drinks.
Yeah, if you're in Lisbon, come to Indie Beers Lisbon. It's on Meetup. We run once a month. It's a good meetup.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I can go to the next question was like, do you have a favorite quote? Something you really resonate with?
Favorite quote? Yeah, there's a few. Are you talking like in entrepreneurship or in life in general?
It depends on you. I think it's more something connected to you, like you will share to the like to share to the world, like a good quote, something that's really resonate with you.
Um, yeah, there's a few. I mean, the biggest one that always comes to mind is Steve Jobs, like "Stay foolish, stay hungry." That's super important, I think. I'm trying to think if there's what's the other one that comes to mind.
That's a very cool one.
More life one is like I think it's Oscar Wilde. Everything in moderation, including moderation. Like that's a really good way
I
to
didn't
live
knew that
life.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
and I
both
think
pretty good.
yeah. Well, I could give you one more, which more from a product standpoint, which I think is popular, but people are not aware of sometimes. Is by Henry Ford, and he famously said that if I asked people, what they wanted back in the day before the car, they would have said we want faster horses. But what
Ah, yes.
he built was the car. And that's like a really interesting product quote that always stays in my mind in how that talking back to what we about, product strategy and listening to your users, but also having your own founder vision, right? Because they would have all said faster horses, and if you gave them a faster horse, you wouldn't have the car.
Yeah.
It's an art of combining all of that together. Um,
I think
and
you're right. That's really something we forgot to mention earlier. Is like you user are very right about what is required, but you have to understand how you shape it in your vision
yeah,
and make it happen. Because sometimes my users ask me very complex things, and I know they will just like make the project like too costly or too hard to understand and stuff like that. So,
exactly.
and, yeah, and so yeah, that's very important to put a filter through it to be sure like where are you going. But definitely the main input should be this, and
Yeah,
then filter through your vision.
100%.
Okay, thanks. The next question is one for me. Who should I invite next after you in this podcast?
Who are you looking for? I got loads of people in the community.
Um, Indie makers building things in company where they're in solo with freelancer as you and me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy called Andy Cloak. He's in my mastermind group. He runs a really cool tool called Data Fetcher, which is like an Airtable plugin. He's also sold a previous product, but he's very much like even more solopreneur than me in a sense that he doesn't really
Okay.
have a team, a big team anyway, but he builds like plugins and I think it's a plus 20k MRR as well. But really cool, yeah, indie hack I'd recommend.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
Do you want to put another one or just this one is fine?
Yeah, I mean, I can also recommend a couple of really good friends who are in Lisbon. They are really building stuff in the influencer space.
Okay.
And so they're really interesting because they've gone through the kind of like a VC route, and then crashed and burned, got fed up with it, and now like full bootstrap converts, and they're like, we've got to make it, we've got to make 20k MRR or nothing, and so they're super driven, really smart guys, really good in the influencer social space, and yeah, so they run findmecreators.com and are also shipping a lot of like tools regularly in that space. I definitely recommend them as well. I can send you the
Okay.
contacts.
Do you have the name of one of them?
Yeah, the two co-founders, one is Jean and the other one is Guillaume. And
Okay.
yeah, I can send you the details.
Perfect. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot. So just last question is for you. It's where do we send people, makers who wants to know more about you?
Yeah, check out my Twitter handle. That's definitely the best place. My DMs are always
Mhm.
open. That's yeah, x.com/underscore Barretto, Baretto. Yeah,
I will put
but
it in the
also
description.
yeah, also yeah, I think Tiny Host is very useful to creators as well. So definitely check out the app tiny.host, and open for feedback and how we can make it better for anyone building stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. All the projects we've talked about will be in the description of the podcast.
Yeah.
So if you are interested, just click on the link, open the description. It's very nice. Also, so thank you for your time. That was amazing. 1 hour and a half.
Yeah. No worries. Glad to be here.
Yeah. If you enjoy the podcast, like as a listener, please send us messages on Twitter. Send your love and strength. It's very nice to know like we have made this podcast and some people get inspired by it. So feel free to DM us or even ask questions about what we've shared. This is always nice to have some feedbacks on what you have done. And so the next episode will be in a week published. Thanks a lot and bye bye.
Cheers.